PRT, we belong to you.
Welcome back to the podcast. My guest here today is, I've been wanting to have this guest for a while because to talk about a certain topic that really gets unnoticed, and it's properties. And she is by far the props queen. There's no one who can do props better than this guest here tonight. And today I have Dani Wermedal. How are you, Dani?
I'm doing well, Robert. How are you?
Pretty good. So before we get started, I always start off with this question. If I wasn't bothering you right now, what would you be doing?
I would be making the Prop Poop Awards for PRT's final banquet.
Which is tomorrow, yeah.
Yep.
Can you give us a taste? I mean, a lot of poop, I'm guessing.
Yes, a lot of poop. We've got the Golden Poop Awards for people who were helpful with props, came in on their own time to help us and set their props nicely every night. And then we have the Brown Poop Awards, which are people who broke props, didn't reset their props, stuff like that. Yes.
Oh, how I can't wait for banquet tomorrow. So let's start from the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Kearney, Nebraska. Yep.
Okay, and how big is your family? The Wermedals have been great friends to us, to the pack. Mainly your dad.
Yeah.
But give us an idea. How big is your family?
Extended family included?
People who come to see these shows.
Oh, gosh. Well, this past showing of Shrek, I had 17 family members come from Nebraska, Minnesota, and around South Dakota to see me. So I have a very strong support system.
Oh, geez. And how was your dad being on stage for Putnam?
He loved it. He's always a game for getting up on stage and
he's one of our biggest supporters I've seen.
Yes, definitely. Doug Wermedal is all about the theater life.
So, give us an idea of when that theater bug came into your life. Not necessarily like, oh, this is when I wanted to do it, but like do you remember when you were first exposed to theater?
Probably when I was in about second grade, I joined my first theater camp, my first summer theater camp. I was fortunate to go to a school where we had teachers who were willing to put on a summer theater camp every summer from my second grade year up until my freshman year of high school.
Oh, wow. Give us an idea, like, what are some of the shows you did during the high school time?
Some of the shows are kind of knockoffs of the bigger ones you would see. One of them is called Rats, and it's like a spoof on the Pied Piper story. One of them is called Cinderella, and everyone knows the story of Cinderella. Best Little Theater in Town. Another one is called Why Does the Mosquito Buzz? Like lots of children's parables and such. Stuff like that.
All right. It's interesting. I've never really heard that. And did you get into props then?
No, not at all.
I assume I know when it was, which was Legally Blonde, I'm guessing.
It was
correct?
Legally Blonde. I had not touched a prop, known really about props until my sophomore year of college.
And how did you get involved with that exactly?
For Legally Blonde, I was put on props crew for work weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I had really done anything besides paint in the shop. And the props head ended up having some issues and was relieved of his duties, and the director asked me to step in as props head.
And just for the record, you are a much better person than that guy ever was. We won't name him, but anyway, but how was that going straight into your first property design is Legally Blonde? Yeah. And that was a big set to deal with.
Yes. It was kind of nerve-wracking. I was very grateful for people who kind of stepped in and helped, like Billy and Aaron Schulke. They definitely guided me on my way. And Jim as well helped me kind of discover what props was about and how to create a show and make it come together. In 2 weeks, I might add.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Which is basically the rep schedule.
Yep.
Which we'll get into that later. But and before we talk about rep, obviously this is a stupid question, but I do want to know, when you said to your mom and dad, like, I'm doing theater, I assume they were gung-ho about it?
They were pretty gung-ho about it. They definitely made sure that I explored other areas I was interested in as well, such as music and literature.
Yes, it's worth noted, you have a very talented singing voice.
Thank you very much.
Aretha Franklin type of singing voice. I kid you not.
Oh gosh, well thank you so much. That's very sweet of you.
But so after Legally Blonde, I want to say Learned Ladies was your next show, right?
Yep.
And that was your first. Well, Legally Blonde you did act in, but
yes.
Learned Ladies was more of a main role.
Definitely. It was probably my first supporting lead role here at SDSU.
And how was that going from Legally Blonde, where we do it for just 5 days, but for the third Fishback show, we do that for 2 weeks? I think remember, didn't you have bronchitis?
Yes, I got laryngitis during the second run. I lost my voice completely almost by the end of the run, but I had a very supportive cast. They let me sit on my little humidifier and my tea backstage with my throat lozenges.
We did whatever we could.
Yes, you did whatever you guys could.
And it worked, and nobody noticed.
It was very gracious, but yeah, that was quite an experience. Going from a huge musical to a straight classical show was pretty awesome, though. It was such an experience, and I'll never forget it.
And how was it learning? I mean, I had the luxury of just memorizing 3 lines, but how was it learning? There's a difference between a modern day show and that type of Moliere show where literally it's all in rhymes.
Yes.
And you can't really ad-lib. You can't really have any wiggle room. You have to get this.
Yep. I would say the luxury of improvisation is gone. You have to get the line exactly, or at least get the end rhyme, which, I mean, you should strive for in every show. Sure. But if you don't get this, you could throw off someone else's next paragraph of line because it has to rhyme with yours. Exactly. And it actually wasn't too difficult. Once you got the flow and the rhythm of the lines, it was almost like memorizing song lyrics. Okay. Which was pretty neat.
And how is that, memorizing lyrics versus lines as well?
For me personally, lyrics versus lines. Lyrics always come easier to me because I can put it to a tune, I can sing it in the shower, whereas it's much easier to do lines when you have your acting counterpart to kind of run the beats with you and such. Okay.
And so fast forward now, then you had your first rep experience. Yes. And what would you say current Dani would tell last year's Dani as far as what to expect of rep?
Get as much sleep as you can, and just take chances. Trust your designs. Trust that your production team will have your back.
And you were, I want to say, prop master for Church Basement Ladies, right?
Yes, I was.
Give us an idea of some of the props you had to make for that show. I know it was a lot and a lot of food.
Yes, it was a lot of food. Well, we did the second Church Basement Ladies. That's the one that I was head of. Second Church Basement Ladies is all about cleaning up. So we had a lot of dishes from the first CBL, but we did have to make a few leftover casseroles, such as the dried beef Velveeta hot dish, which was one of our favorites. We had to order in a conch shell from Hawaii for this show. We had to find Wonder Bread bags, which were apparently out of business, which I didn't know, but we found some, which was awesome. Some of the other crazy, just
bong.
Yep, the bong. How was
that exactly?
Well, it was really interesting. Basically, my crew just researched what a bong looks like, and then we went to a couple of stores, picked up a vase, and glued a rubber shower plug to the bottom of it and a copper tube to the side.
So, yeah, as you mentioned that, let's talk about that. So, when you're either talking to Sue or Jim or JD, and they're like, we need this item, and there's no item in that store. What's your first instinct of making said prop?
Of making a prop. Well, my first thing that I found actually this past school year is it's easiest to sketch it out.
Okay.
And once it's kind of like drafting a scenic element or doing a rendering of a costume. You want to draw it out, see how it looks, see how it's going to fit in with the scenic design and costumes. So my first step is always to sketch out the prop.
And I assume, obviously, read the script. You know.
Definitely read the script first. You should probably have read through the script a couple times.
At least.
At least.
And it seems like, from personal experience, there's always at least one prop.
Oh, yeah.
There's always at least one prop where you just sort of sit there and like, how do I make that?
Yep.
What would you say was that for... for Shrek and for Church Basement Ladies. And we'll talk more about Shrek in a few minutes.
Sounds good. For Church Basement Ladies, I would say one of the most difficult props to work with was actually the brownies.
Really?
They had to be cuttable on stage, but they had to be fake. She had to be able to push down into the material and then take an edible brownie, but just one, out of the front of the pan. So what we ended up doing is we took a cookie sheet, glued down some foam, spray painted that foam brown, and then covered it with a thin layer of joint compound that we had mixed with some brown paint. And then once we let that harden, it was easy enough for Rachel, playing Mavis, to put her dulled knife down into it so it looked like she was cutting the brownies, but it would just pop right back up, and then we were able to cut out a section and stack up some cosmic brownies for her to use as the edible ones.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about props is you think out of the norm.
Definitely.
In terms of making props. Like, I think the thing you showed me when we had to make Dancing at Lunasa props was how to make old wrinkled newspapers, and you've said, oh, put coffee grains on it.
Coffee grounds.
Like, that would have never occurred to me.
Yep.
How do you learn that exactly? I mean, I don't want to, how does your mind process as far as, oh, I know how to make this?
I guess I don't know. I do a lot of research. Looking online, Pinterest is a great website for like DIY projects and all that good stuff.
There's your plug.
Exactly, Pinterest. And obviously talking to Billy and Corey, JD, Jim, Sue, they always have great ideas. But really, it's a lot of trial and error is what props is. What will make this look better? If you need to make, say, like a newspaper look old, take a piece of parchment paper and then try tea bags, try coffee grounds, try dirt, try some watered down paint. Basically, whatever gives you the best result is what you're going to want to go with.
And especially when this is seen 30 feet away.
Exactly.
And how detailed are you with a show? I mean... We've seen some of your shows, and there's a lot of props most of the time.
Yes. I try to be as detailed as possible with my props, just because even if it's from 30 feet away, any shadow, any highlight you throw on there will create such a depth to a prop. Mm-hmm. So going in and just say, like, the Gingies.
Sure.
Going in and just covering them with felt, yes, it's a cookie. It looks awesome. But going in with a watered down paint to give some extra depth to the prop just makes it pop out so much more. And you can really get, it sounds weird, but an emotion from the prop if you give it the right shadows and highlights.
And obviously period is important.
Exactly, that too.
So, and fast forward a little bit, and you've worked on Zombie Prom as well, same thing. Were you both prop master and... in the show?
Yes, I was.
How was that? How is it being prop master for sure and also being prop master? Same thing with Shrek as well, obviously.
Yep. It was a little difficult at first. Definitely stretched for time, especially during the school year when if you have a job and then also going to classes. But I'm lucky enough to have people in this department that will come in and help if I leave a set of instructions, such as you and Jenny and Erin Schulke. They are just wonderful to come in and help me out whenever I needed. Jenny was definitely a lifesaver during Zombie Prom when I had rehearsals every evening and then would have to get prop notes, and then Jenny was able to help and come in during the afternoons.
And how was it playing Miss Strick?
It was awesome. I loved that character, mostly because it's always more fun for me to play the villain. I just think it's so exciting.
And then the twist at the end.
And then the twist, she was kind of a sexual deviant, but she's...
I mean, that seems to be a trend right lately.
With my characters.
You got Learned Ladies. You got Delilah Strict.
Yep.
Not so much with State Fair, but...
Not so much, but
But who knows? And yeah, and of course Shrek.
And of course Shrek the dragon. Yep. She
And-
had her love dungeon.
And it should be worth noting, I think the coolest moment, graduating now, one of the top 5 coolest moments is still you, Grady, Joe Schartz doing that a cappella moment at the end of Act 1.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was a technical flub and whatnot. Mm-hmm. How was that? Just like instinct, like, oh.
Well, at first, I didn't exactly notice just because we're all singing, but...
You're in the moment.
Yep. We all took a breath, and we didn't hear any music, and I looked at Joe, and Joe looked at Grady, and Grady looked at me, and we're just like, well, here we go. And we just kept it moving, I guess.
And it worked.
Didn't even think about it, just kind of kept it going. And
so then fast forward a little bit to now PRT auditions. How did you react when you found out you were the dragon?
Well, I screamed. I immediately called my parents because I was so excited. Dragon was a role that I was really hoping to be able to play because she's just such a bombing character and has such a stage presence that I was just over the moon excited when I found out I got Dragon.
And Dragon has a certain height about her.
Yes, I believe I was somewhere between 7.5 and 8 feet tall on my stilts.
And how was this stilts?
At first, they were a little difficult. I was definitely nervous and scared. I'd never walked on stilts before this summer.
Not many people do.
That's true. But, it was an awesome experience. Again, just the support from Billy and the quote-unquote dragon wranglers, such as Molly Wyman and Grace, who helped me backstage getting into those things. But it was definitely a learning process, and then Daniel being able to fit them to my legs exactly, so I was able to walk around comfortably. And
how far back did you know it was going to be stilts? Because I heard rumors from it was going to be the puppet, and then I heard this, and I heard that.
Mm-hmm. I think it was probably 2 weeks into rep that they finally decided that we were going to put me on some stilts, which was awesome.
And it got to the point where now I saw you run on stilts.
Yes, I can now run in those things. I have mastered them.
Did you get to keep them?
No, I did not get to keep them.
And it should be worth noting, how is it not only playing Dragon, but you also got to play these other small parts. So you don't have as many quick changes as some of the ensemble part, but there are moments where like, okay, I need to get on right now.
Yep. I think my favorite smaller role in Shrek was probably being the big Farquaad head.
Yes. How did you make that? I got
We made it out of just padding, basically the same kind of foam that you would make a puppet out of. And you take what Billy has in the shop, it's like a turkey carver, a meat carver, and you shave down the sides of the foam to like rounded off edges, and it's kind of like a foam sander almost sometimes.
And was that all one try, or was that a trial and error?
That was kind of a trial and error. I did it in sections.
Okay.
So the hat, the extensions of the face, such as the nose and the chin, and then the actual head itself.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest surprise, honestly, seeing that head. Because I thought, well, that's probably going to get scrapped just because it's a big head.
Yep.
And then I saw that, and I just squealed, essentially. Is that safe to assume, was that the hardest prop to make for Was that the prop when you read the script? How am I going to make this?
It was definitely between that one and then the Gingies.
Yeah, how was the Gingies?
The Gingies were...
Because there's 3 of them, right?
There are. There is the Gingy mounted on the big cookie sheet in Farquaad's chamber. There is the Gingy that is on the smaller cookie sheet that is carried around by the Sugar Plum Fairy. And then there is the free-floating Gingy on the crutch.
And what would you say in terms of difficulty? Which one was the hardest to make?
Actually, the hardest to make was the free-floating one because it had to be covered by felt front and back.
Okay.
And when you work with felt and foam, it's really hard to get around the rounded edges of a cookie. And so it was hard to kind of tuck and sew and manipulate the fabric so it didn't look like he was kind of a Frankenstein doll and just ended up being a smooth, seamless piece of fabric.
And was that a trial and error as
Definitely. I went through probably 2 Gingies before I got the 3 ready. And that was because of just getting the right shape for the foam, seeing how the fabric would go around. We initially bought this really amazing burnt brown fabric for Gingy, but it just wasn't stretchy enough to get around the rounded edges of his head and arms and legs. So we had to scrap those just because the fabric wasn't working.
Okay. And so what was it also like working with Jim, essentially? Because mainly most of your scenes are with Donkey.
Yep.
Which that whole concept alone, Donkey and Dragon, still weirds me out, but...
You're not a fan of the Dronkies?
No, I mean, it's cool, but it's just one of those, like, when you think about it, just like, it's a big head scratcher.
Yeah.
But how was it working with Jim?
Oh, it was a blast. Working with Jim is awesome. He's supportive as a director and also as a fellow actor.
Was it, I mean, obviously, what was the biggest difference between working with him directing in Legally Blonde and then working with him on stage?
More of Legally Blonde, it was definitely more of a, like, direction kind of partnership with that, but when we were in Shrek, it was just fun to like feed off of each other, do different silly things as Dragon and Donkey. But I don't know, it was just a fun experience to be able to work with like one of your professors and teachers on stage and be able to grow as a performer that way.
And how did the kids react when they saw you?
At first, none of the little girls would come up to me. They were definitely scared of the dragon, but all of the little boys were like, "Oh my gosh, it's a dragon!"
So I remember there was that one kid who was like deathly afraid.
There was one child who was deathly afraid of me. But before the show, I went up to him and his mom and said, "Hi, I'm the dragon. I promise you I'm not a mean dragon. I'm a nice dragon." And by the end, when they came out to leave the show, he came up and took a picture with me. So I think he got over his fear.
And is forever stuck in your head.
Oh,
forever.
It will be there forever. Whenever I say that word, I can't help but either sing the tune in my head or someone next to me will go, "Forever."
It was done extremely well.
Oh, thank you so much.
And now that we're almost done with rep, what has this summer been for you?
This summer has been amazing with the work that I've been able to do from Shrek, being able to see all of the talent we've had this summer. It's just been outstanding. Being able to just sit and watch in the audience, like during Spelling Bee, and see all of like the rep members up there and being able to watch them as they just like perform their hearts out was just rewarding.
Yeah, do you see yourself doing rep again?
I do. JD did say that if I came back, I could get props mistress.
Really?
In the program instead of master. So I don't know.
That's one thing it's always like costume designer, lighting designer, and then props gets its own little
master,
title.
Yep.
And that's bigger than like an Oscar. You get your own title.
Just a little title, yep.
Title in a program for life.
But I would be honored to be part of Prairie Repertory Theater again. This company has helped me grow as a performer, a designer, and a person.
And on that note, I always end it with 3 random questions, just fun things that just pop in your head.
All right.
First thing, you kind of already answered this, but with Donkey and Dragon having kids and whatnot, what's your go-to pronunciation for those, whatever you call them?
I believe the correct term is dronky.
Drunky.
Dronkies, yes.
And it's weird because they are actually in, like, I forget what movie it is, but they do
appear in one of the movies. Billy was so gung-ho for having me make some, but no dronkies for Shrek.
The sequel.
The sequel, maybe.
For the second one, what would you say was, if any, being in Shrek, if any fairy tale creature could get its own spin-off, what would it be?
Oh, it's gotta be Gingy.
Yeah.
Gingy would just be wonderful. Gingy and Cats in Boots. Puss in Boots, excuse me.
Same thing.
Same thing.
How did you get that doll?
The doll, found it on Amazon.com.
And before I get to the last question, how is it, when do you determine when to buy a prop and when to make one?
That goes into basically the nature of the show.
Sure.
If it's a show such as Making God Laugh, that's very period relevant. So you're going to want 90s, 80s, all the stuff we can find in a Goodwill. We can get stuff from Walmart, antique shops around the area. But when it comes to shows like Shrek, which is fantasy, nowhere are you going to find a stuffed skunk that's ready to spray some Febreze onto Shrek. So it's just kind of research, seeing what you can find on the internet, pricing.
Picking your battles.
Yep, picking and choosing your battles.
And for the final question, if PRT was on Broadway, if it had an unlimited budget, unlimited space, I'll say pack phase 5.
All right.
We'll just say that whenever that day comes. But what show would you like to see PRT do? If you were in charge and you forget spacing and budget, what would you want to see?
I would love to see PRT do Hairspray.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And Jim said the same thing.
Really?
Yeah. What about, do you want to see Hairspray? I mean, it's a great show, obviously. But...
For my 19th birthday, my parents surprised me with a trip to Chanhassen.
Oh,
and
really?
I got to see Hairspray at the dinner theater, and it just blew my mind, from the sets to the costumes to the crazy energy, the fun music. It's just an all-around just great show with a strong message.
And it's safe to assume if you could be any show, it'd be...
What do you think?
Yeah. I'll just assume. Dani, I can't thank you enough. I asked you this 6 different times today, so I appreciate so much you coming here, and I will stop pestering you now. Thank you again for coming, and I cannot wait to see who gets a poop award and who doesn't, and what kind of color that award will be. Thanks again, and we'll see you again.